I said, you don't know. So let's take this part piece by piece. So you have it, because you have to carry it, because these guys aren't doing the work anymore. But basically, if we take this apart, it's really, it's really three things here. It's three things. It's extremists, it's Sharia law, global caliphate. It's extremists, Islamic extremists and communists, and destabilization. I showed you this on the first, I think this is the second show. I wrote it up here. The theory is radical Islamicists, communists and socialists will work together against Israel, will work together against capitalism, and work together to overturn stability. That's it. They'll overturn stability because in the status quo, they are ostracized from power and the mainstream in most of the world. Now, let's see if any of these are true. Let's go back to, Aaron's running. Let's go back to, Glenn Beck is crazy. Why am I crazy? The first one is, I'm saying a global caliphate is coming. Now, I don't know when. I don't even know if it would happen. I'm just saying you're creating the conditions that make it more likely. It sounds ridiculous and crazy. Nobody's talking about it. So let's go to that charge. Let's start with Paul Bremer, the former ambassador at large for counterterrorism. Quote, Islamic extremists are a threat not only to the U.S., but to the entire globe. These extremists have a vision of a world converted to Islam and an established universal caliphate. They seek to destroy everything that America and her ideals of individual freedom and democracy stand for. Got it? You can go to the nut job in Iran, Ahmadinejad. Our revolution's main mission is to pave the way for the reappearance of the 12th Imam, the Mahdi. Caliphate. Look up the 12th Imam. You'll see it. The Party of Liberation, the Hizb ut-Tahrir, this one we told you about last night, offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood, active 40 different countries. They were inspired mostly to push for a new caliphate. The Taliban leader, Zawahiri, remember this guy? He was trained, I believe, by the Muslim Brotherhood. He's an offshoot here. He's a disciple. He said nothing would be more disturbing nothing more than disturbing acts, regardless of their magnitude, unless they led to a caliphate in the heart of the Islamic world. Osama bin Laden says Muslims need a leader who can unite them and establish the pious caliphate. Bloody, 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 bloody. He says we're against capitalism or communism as well. Yes, they are. In the end. We want the revival under a nation under the Islamic Caliphate as predicted by the Prophet in his traditions. Now, we've shown you this before, but I want to show you somebody who did their homework. Last night, a listener was watching, listener of my radio show, was watching the TV show. He called me this morning. He said he saw something on the big monitor behind me, and I want to show you. This is the tape of the show last night. There I am, and I'm talking here. And he said he saw something in this screen that bothered him. So he stopped it, and he did his own homework. Let me show you where he paused the show. Pause it right here. This word. He didn't know what it was. I was saying to people, do your own homework. Look it up. So he took this word here, and he searched for it. Khalifa. Well, it's the Arabic spelling for caliphate. See, I told you, if you spend 2 minutes, these guys could have it. But doing it actually makes the difference. Saying, yeah, I'm going to look it up. Doing it makes the difference. Critical thinking. So Chris in Broomfield, Colorado, he goes to the website. He Googles it, and he sees Khalifa.com. Here it is. And he starts reading it. And he's amazed because on it is this article. CIA's 2020 vision for the future caliphate is short-sighted. We read it. This is the CIA analysis. And they mapped out a global future. And they mapped out a scenario of how a global movement fueled by radical religious identity could emerge. Under this scenario, a new caliphate is proclaimed and manages to advance a powerful counter-ideology that has widespread appeal. But going back to this website, they talk about this. You should read it. It's amazing. And basically, they say this report is naive. There's a lack of understanding on behalf of the U.S. government on the long-range goals of the caliphate. Okay, so back in 2004, the CIA is preparing this report. A website whose name in Arabic is Caliphate says the report doesn't dig deep enough into their plan for a global caliphate. And I'm being labeled crazy or paranoid by these people. I'm never going to expect these guys to actually do their homework. They're not. They're comfortable in their jobs. They're comfortable with their titles, and that's just the way it's going to be. They've had their time in the sun. But Chris in Broomfield, Colorado, did his homework, and it makes all the difference in the world. Back in just a sec. We are replowing some ground that we have already plowed tonight, and tomorrow we pick up speed again and we move pretty quickly, but I want to make sure that we're not losing anyone behind. I want to make sure that it's very, very clear, because we are the only ones that are putting it together that like this. And the mainstream media, no, the fringe media of Time Magazine and the Washington Post, because this is mainstream media now, they've got it wrong. And it's important that you carry the water on this and do your own homework on it. One more thing before we leave the first charge that Glenn is crazy for saying a caliphate is coming. I just showed you the CIA report and all these people who are asking for it. And all of this information is at glennbeck.com. Sign up for my free email newsletter. We'll send it right to you. But one more piece of evidence. And it was only on the Rush Limbaugh show today with the former Secretary of Defense, Donald Rumsfeld. Here's what he said today about a global caliphate. Listen carefully.
We are up against a vicious enemy. The radical Islamists are there. They intend to try to create a caliphate in this world and fundamentally alter the nature of nation states. And we're reluctant to engage in the competition of ideas and point out what they really are and how vicious they are.
That's what's happening here. These people are not willing to look at the reality and have an open dialogue. It's the same thing that happened when we said there's communists in the White House. They just brushed him out at night. No, have the dialogue. Which brings us to charge number 2. Charge number 2 is socialism, Islamic socialism and socialist communist working together, along with radical Islam. Now, I showed you how there are different groups uniting with Egypt on the principle of destroying capitalism. This is going to blow your mind. Destroy capitalism and the Western way of life, and how they are putting their end game differences aside to deal with it later, because the communists don't like, Iran's, they don't want to live under that, Sharia law. And people who want Sharia law don't want to live under communism. But they're taking advantage of an opportunity, and this is what critics apparently, for some reason, don't want you to look at. Watch this. This is the left.
Ending the Mubarak dictatorship is one of those steps in ending all of the countries that are under U.S. domination and serve the interests of the United States.
My comrades are rejecting the entrenched U.S.-backed regimes that have arrested them, that have tortured their families, that have stifled their inalienable rights to free speech and assembly.
The very same people who send tear gas to Egypt, who send tear gas to Mubarak, are the very same people who deny us the right to jobs, and the right to health, and the right to life and housing right here in the United States.
Okay, there's the radical left bashing the United States and saying, yes, our comrades in Egypt. Now, the problem is, it's capitalism. Now let me show you a trailer from a conference we talked about last night, but notice the name of this conference, the 2009 Khalifa Conference. Watch. Caliphate. the fall of capitalism and the rise of Islam. They're both uniting on the fall of capitalism and destabilization. One wants the rise of Islam. And again, the name of the conference in English is the Caliphate Conference. By the way, it was only in Illinois. So now let me ask you, if you compared what the people who are on the street in Chicago, Illinois, the socialists, and this, and you just took out the word Islam, which one was the radical extremist from Islam and which one was the radical communist? They're saying the same thing. It's hard to tell them apart. They're calling for the exact same thing. Back in a minute.